There's a kind of tiredness that no amount of sleep can fix. You could take a vacation, eat better, practice mindfulness, and still wake up every day feeling like something essential is missing. It's not a loud, dramatic type of suffering. It's quiet, persistent, and invisible, like a background hum of discontent that never goes away. You find yourself stuck in cycles, chasing productivity, distracting yourself with entertainment, scrolling endlessly, buying things you don't really want, or setting goals that, deep down, don't matter to you. And yet, the emptiness lingers. You feel like you're doing everything right, and still, nothing truly satisfies. Carl Jung saw this not as simple fatigue or burnout, but as a crisis of the soul. He believed that when you are disconnected from your inner life, when your ego is running the show and your true self is buried, you begin to experience what he called loss of soul. It's not depression in the clinical sense, though it can look similar. It's not laziness, and it's not a lack of discipline. It's the natural result of living out of alignment with your inner truth. The modern world teaches us that we are machines, that if we're tired, we just need to optimize, get better sleep, drink more water, meditate, hustle smarter. But Jung would argue that what we're really experiencing is a deep spiritual weariness. We are not machines. We are psychological and spiritual beings. And when the inner life is ignored, the soul begins to protest. This hidden exhaustion is what happens when you betray your own essence over and over again. Every time you pretend to be okay when you're not. Every time you say yes when you mean no. Every time you suppress your truth to be accepted, a part of you goes dim. Over time, you become a stranger to yourself. And no amount of external success or validation can fill that void. Think about it. How many times have you reached a milestone, got the job, the partner, the promotion, the recognition, and still felt underwhelmed? That's not a failure. That's feedback. It's your inner world telling you that the path you're on isn't aligned with who you really are. But instead of listening, most people double down. They try harder, work longer, add more noise to drown out the silence. Until one day, their soul becomes too tired to whisper and begins to scream. Jung believed that the root of this exhaustion lies in our disconnection from the self, the central, organizing principle of our psyche. The self isn't the same as the ego. The ego is your conscious identity, the you that navigates the world. But the self is deeper. It's the totality of who you are, conscious and unconscious, light and shadow, past and potential. When your life is centered around the ego's desires, success, approval, control, you drift further away from the self. And the more distant you become from it, the more your soul begins to wither. He also spoke of the persona, the social mask we wear to function in society. It's necessary. We all need to play roles. But problems begin when you start believing the persona is all that you are. You perform instead of live. You please instead of feel. You project confidence while secretly falling apart. Over time, this disconnection creates inner conflict. And this conflict is exhausting. You might look fine on the outside, smiling, working, keeping up appearances, but internally, you feel hollow. This is the real pandemic. Millions of people living in quiet despair, numbed by distractions, and terrified of silence. Why? Because silence brings you face to face with what you've been avoiding, yourself. Jung often warned against this superficial way of living. He said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls." This isn't just a clever quote, it's a warning. Because when you avoid your inner life, you don't just lose peace. You lose vitality. You lose meaning. You lose the very thing that makes life feel alive. A tired soul doesn't need more coffee, more motivation, or more self-help tips. It needs truth. It needs space to breathe. It needs a return to what is real. That might mean grieving the life you thought you wanted. It might mean letting go of identities you worked hard to build. It might mean admitting that you're not okay and haven't been for a long time. And that's where the healing begins. Because underneath the exhaustion is not just pain. There is also potential. Jung believed that every symptom carries a message. Your tiredness isn't here to defeat you. It's trying to wake you up. It's asking you to stop, to listen, to reconnect. You don't need to keep performing. You don't need to keep chasing things that don't feed you. The soul doesn't care about status, followers, or performance. It cares about truth, depth, meaning, integrity. And when you begin to live from that place, something shifts. Life begins to feel less like a performance and more like a presence. The question isn't, how do I stop being tired? The real question is, what part of me have I abandoned in order to survive? That's where the work begins. You've probably felt it before, that strange disappointment right after getting exactly what you thought you wanted. You finally reached the goal, got the recognition, the relationship, the result, and then, unexpectedly, an empty feeling crept in. It didn't last. The satisfaction disappeared faster than it came, and you were left wondering, why doesn't this feel like I thought it would? Carl Jung understood this very well. He believed that many of the things we chase in life are attempts to fill an inner void that can't be satisfied by external means. We think we're craving success, love, approval, or adventure, but underneath all those cravings, what we're truly searching for is wholeness. And wholeness doesn't come from what you achieve or possess. It comes from integration, bringing your unconscious and conscious selves into harmony. But most people don't even realize they're fragmented. They live on autopilot, pursuing whatever society tells them should make them happy. Get the job, get the body, get the partner, get the lifestyle. And if you still feel unfulfilled, then clearly you need more, or better, or different. So you chase harder. You change environments. You rebrand your life. But the emptiness follows you wherever you go. Jung believed this cycle is the result of living from the ego instead of the self. The ego is not evil, it's necessary. It's your sense of identity, your I. But the ego is also limited. It only knows what it has been taught. It wants control. It wants certainty. It wants to look good, feel safe, and avoid discomfort. So it builds a life around avoiding pain and seeking reward. The problem is, the soul doesn't work that way. Your deeper self doesn't care about comfort. It cares about truth. It cares about becoming whole. And that means facing what's hidden, broken, repressed, or painful inside of you. It means looking beneath the surface of your achievements and asking, does any of this actually reflect who I am? The reason nothing ever feels like enough is because most people are living a script, a story that was handed to them, not written by them. And when you live someone else's story, you become disconnected from your own soul. You may succeed according to society's standards, but fail in the most important way. You fail to feel alive. Jung warned that we often mistake symbols for reality. We think love means a perfect relationship. We think power means money. We think meaning means status. But these are just symbols, placeholders for something deeper. And if we pursue the symbol without understanding the need behind it, we end up with a life full of things that look good on the outside but feel empty on the inside. This is why so many people feel secretly dissatisfied even when they're winning. They climb the ladder, only to realize it was leaning against the wrong wall. There's another layer to this. Jung believed that when we deny parts of ourselves, especially those that don't fit the image we want to maintain, those parts don't disappear. They form the shadow. This shadow contains everything we've rejected: vulnerability, rage, fear, neediness, creativity, even joy. And the more we suppress it, the more it leaks out in unconscious ways, through addiction, anxiety, depression, or restlessness. When you feel that chronic sense of not enough, it's often the shadow trying to speak. It's the parts of you that are tired of being silenced. It's the creativity you never expressed, the anger you never dealt with, the dreams you buried under duty or fear. These are not flaws. They are fragments of your true self, and until they are acknowledged, you will always feel incomplete, no matter what you achieve. This is why deeper satisfaction doesn't come from adding more to your life, but from subtracting the false, removing what doesn't align, letting go of what you're pretending to care about, telling the truth about what you actually feel, need, want, and believe. That's not selfish, it's essential. Because a life built on denial is a life that exhausts you. You don't need more ambition. You need more honesty. Jung said, we cannot change anything until we accept it. Condemnation does not liberate, it oppresses. You can't find peace by shaming your dissatisfaction. You find peace by listening to it, by understanding it as a sign that your current path isn't aligned with your inner truth. Most people try to escape this feeling by running faster. They set new goals, find new partners, start new projects, hoping the next thing will finally be it. But the problem isn't the destination, it's the direction. You're looking outside for something that can only be found inside. This is why spiritual seekers often hit a wall. They try to ascend before they've integrated. They chase enlightenment while ignoring their pain. But Jung would say, you can't skip the inner work. You can't bypass the shadow. You can't fake wholeness. You either do the work of individuation, or you stay stuck in the illusion of fulfillment. The hunger you feel isn't wrong. It's sacred. It's your soul trying to guide you back to what's real. But that journey doesn't begin with achieving more. It begins with unlearning, with questioning every part of your life that was built to impress others instead of express yourself. You are not here to live a life that looks good in photos but feels empty in private. You are here to live with depth, presence, and truth. And that begins when you stop asking, how can I get more? And start asking, what have I abandoned to become who I thought I had to be? There's a grief no one talks about. It doesn't come from losing a loved one, a relationship, or a home. It comes from slowly realizing that the life you've been living doesn't belong to you. That somewhere along the way, you abandoned your truth to fit in, to be accepted, to be successful, or simply to survive. And now, even though everything looks fine, something inside feels profoundly wrong. This grief is silent because it's hard to explain. It doesn't make sense on paper. You may have a career, a family, a social circle, even some accomplishments to be proud of. But behind the scenes, there's a quiet ache. You look in the mirror and feel like a stranger. You smile in conversations, but feel disconnected. You go through the motions, but your heart isn't in any of it. And the worst part is, you don't know who you are anymore. Carl Jung saw this not as a failure of character, but as a natural consequence of betraying the self. When you live for too long in the persona, the mask you wear to meet society's expectations, you lose contact with your essence. The world sees a version of you, maybe even an impressive one. But the real you, the raw, complicated, messy, vibrant being underneath, gets buried. Not erased, but exiled. And here's what makes it worse. No one warns you this could happen. You're told that if you work hard, follow the rules, and do what's expected, you'll be happy. But no one tells you that those rules weren't written for your soul. They were written to keep the system running. They were written to maintain appearances. They were written by people who were also disconnected from themselves. So you wake up one day and feel it. That subtle panic. Not loud enough to call a crisis, but strong enough to make you wonder, how did I end up here? And how do I get back to something real? Jung understood that this grief is not only valid, it's essential. Because until you mourn the false self, you can't reclaim the real one. He believed that healing requires confrontation with the unconscious, the parts of you that were rejected, hidden, or silenced so you could be acceptable. Your shadow doesn't just contain your darkness. It contains your authenticity, your forgotten desires, your unlived life. And this is where the real pain begins. Because as you peel back the layers of who you thought you had to be, you start to see all the choices you made out of fear, the jobs you took to feel secure, the relationships you stayed in to avoid being alone, the dreams you gave up because someone told you they weren't realistic. It's overwhelming, and it hurts. But that pain is sacred. You're not grieving your life because you failed. You're grieving because you're finally awake. You're no longer hypnotized by the illusion of should. And that awakening, while painful, is also the beginning of liberation. Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. What you think is your personality, your preferences, your identity, your limits, might actually be a defense mechanism, a mask, a structure built around pain. And if you never question it, you'll live your whole life inside a version of yourself that was designed to keep you safe, not to make you whole. The problem is, safety is not the same as fulfillment. You can be perfectly safe and deeply miserable. You can be responsible, respected, and utterly disconnected from your soul. Jung's work calls us to something deeper, to individuation, the lifelong process of becoming who you truly are. Not who your parents wanted, not who your culture conditioned, not who your trauma forced you to be, but who you are when all the masks fall away. That process doesn't happen through effort alone. It begins with honesty, with naming what hurts, with admitting what feels empty, with acknowledging the parts of you that are angry, lost, or tired of pretending. This is not weakness. This is the courage to feel. And feeling is exactly what our world teaches us to avoid. We're taught to push through, to numb out, to perform, to rise and grind and fake positivity. But beneath that pressure is a generation of people quietly falling apart because they were never given the tools to grieve the life they were never meant to live. You might be one of them. You might be realizing, right now, that most of your life has been about survival, not expression. About fitting in, not belonging. About being liked, not being real. And that realization might terrify you. But it also means something powerful. You're ready to come home to yourself. This doesn't mean you have to destroy your life or walk away from everything. It means you begin to listen to what's true. Maybe for the first time. It means you stop asking, what do people expect of me? And start asking, what does my soul need? It means you stop living for appearances and start living for alignment. You might feel behind. You might feel like you wasted years. But Jung would remind you, nothing is ever truly lost. The self waits. It doesn't vanish. It watches, patiently, through all your detours, disappointments, and roles. And when you're finally ready to drop the mask, it welcomes you back, not with shame, but with open arms. The grief you're feeling is not a dead end. It's a doorway. And when you walk through it, you don't just find pain. You find possibility. Most self-help advice focuses on self-improvement. Be more confident, more productive, more disciplined. Change your habits. Upgrade your mindset. Fix yourself. But Jung didn't believe in this approach. He didn't think your purpose was to become a shinier, more optimized version of who you already are. He believed your purpose was to become whole. And wholeness doesn't come from perfection. It comes from integration. From learning to live with the parts of yourself that you were taught to hide, hate, or fear. From turning toward your contradictions, not to eliminate them, but to understand them. Because until you understand them, you're at war with yourself. This war is what causes so much suffering. You want to feel alive, but you also want to stay safe. You want love, but you fear intimacy. You crave freedom, but you cling to control. These conflicts aren't flaws. They're the natural result of being human. Jung's work shows that your healing doesn't begin when you eliminate inner conflict. It begins when you stop judging yourself for having it. He said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But he also knew that becoming who you truly are is not glamorous work. It's slow. It's uncomfortable. It requires you to face everything in yourself that doesn't fit the narrative you've built. It's not about becoming good. It's about becoming real. This is why so many people avoid true inner work. It's not that they're lazy. It's that they're terrified of what they'll find if they look too deeply. They've spent their whole lives avoiding their pain, hiding their anger, denying their needs, numbing their grief. And the thought of turning inward feels like opening a floodgate. But Jung would argue, the only way out is through. You can't meditate your way around your shadow. You can't visualize your way into self-love if part of you still believes you're unworthy. You can't affirm your way past trauma. These tools can help, but they're not enough. Real transformation requires reckoning. You have to confront the stories that shaped you. You have to feel what you've been avoiding. You have to own the parts of you that don't make sense yet. That includes the parts that don't fit the image you've tried to maintain. The jealous part, the insecure part, the needy part, the rageful part, the lost part. Jung taught that these aren't your enemies. They're fragments of your soul, waiting to be seen. The more you deny them, the more power they have over you. But when you acknowledge them, they lose their control and become integrated into your consciousness. This is why becoming whole often looks like falling apart. It's the breakdown of the false self, the unraveling of the persona, the death of who you thought you had to be. But in that death, something more honest begins to emerge. You stop pretending. You stop performing. You stop chasing goals that were never yours to begin with. And you begin to live from a different place, not from fear or ego, but from authenticity. That doesn't mean you'll never struggle again. Jung never promised peace in the way most people imagine it. He understood that the human psyche is complex, mysterious, and always evolving. But he believed that once you commit to the path of individuation, something changes. Even your suffering becomes meaningful. You're no longer lost in it. You're learning from it. You realize that your pain isn't proof that something's wrong with you. It's proof that you're waking up, that you're alive, that you care, that you're finally done with the numbness. And that shift, from avoiding discomfort to embracing truth, is where your power begins. The modern world won't celebrate this kind of power. It celebrates status, speed, and surface. But Jung's vision was never about fitting into the modern world. It was about becoming who you were before the world told you who to be. That means unlearning almost everything. Not just the beliefs you picked up, but the identity you built around them. You were not born to be productive. You were born to be present. You were not born to be perfect. You were born to be whole. And yes, that journey is messy. People may not understand it. You may lose relationships, ambitions, or identities that once felt essential. But what you gain in return is something sacred, a relationship with your own soul. This is not the kind of life you build to impress others. It's the kind of life you build when you finally understand that no amount of external success will ever compare to internal peace. So what does it actually mean to live as your whole self? It means honoring your emotions, even when they're inconvenient. It means slowing down when the world tells you to speed up. It means saying no, even when it disappoints people. It means choosing truth over comfort. It means making space for your wounds, not hiding them. It means trusting your inner voice, even when it shakes. And most of all, it means remembering that you are not broken. You are becoming. Carl Jung didn't offer formulas or shortcuts. He offered a path that demands everything, but gives everything in return. A path that begins the moment you stop running from yourself and turn inward, not to fix, but to finally meet the person you've always been. Wholeness is not the result of adding more to yourself. It's the result of removing everything that's not truly you. And when you do that, when you strip away the mask, the story, the survival patterns, what remains is not emptiness. What remains is you.